Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today we're going to look over the Washington Post. It's an old article from 6 years ago. It's 2018, but I thought it would be interesting because I think that this, was probably something that your average fat activist could have read at the time. But I want to go ahead and read it because I want to see the arguments being pushed in mainstream media. So let's go ahead and check it out. So this is called Why You Should Stop Trying to Lose Weight. Because I figure, since I'm in my summertime sadness era, it would be good for me at this time where I feel like I'm most likely to give up. I'm not going to, for the record. But at a weak moment, it's interesting to look at these articles and then see if I can provide a counter argument when I'm not doing the best, basically. So let's go ahead. So I'm this is my moment of I'm hearing you out, fat acceptance. Can you convince me? Can you change my mind? And by extension, can they change yours? Look at this. Look at how weird this is. As someone who has suffered from and eventually escaped the diet roller coaster, who has professionally been on a mission to help others get off it, too, it's no surprise that I follow anti-diet voices on social media, many of whom are nutrition experts. I'm usually all nods when scrolling through their posts, but a recent trend of messages unsettled me. Interesting. So to me, this is a little bit EG coded. So we're probably going to have some talks. It's been really interesting. I know one of my friends, she was super interested in that kind of those EG logics. And I like pointing it out when I see it because I know it like the back of my hand, basically. But this is already giving us a hint, okay? This is BEG coded. So I don't know if this person had it or whatever, but it's at least, once again, this is something that somebody that has BEG would read, probably, and then probably be convinced to stop dieting, okay? So anyways, let's continue. At first glance, they seem to go beyond anti-diet and verge on anti-healthy. One post proclaimed that any attempt to lose weight is a diet. Look at the copium of this person writing this. Think about that for a second. If we treat diet as a 4-letter word, then the message is that trying to lose weight at all, even in a healthy way, is something to be condemned. It got me wondering whether the anti-diet movement has gone too far. Oh yeah, definitely. Should people really be discouraged from pursuing weight loss, even on a sound lifestyle plan, when it could lead to better health, less knee pain, getting off blood sugar medications, reducing the risk of heart attack, and so on? To dig deeper, I spoke with several thought leaders. You can't hear that I'm rolling my eyes, but I am. On the issue, and came to the conclusion that the post was onto something. Of course you were convinced of something totally dumb. Okay. Although weight matters when it comes to health, the true path to wellness may be to not try to lose weight at all. I think this person's going to try to do a very nuanced take that isn't actually accurate. And we'll get into why it isn't as we go through it. Overweight and obesity are serious threats to health, says Walter Willett, professor of epidemiology and nutrition at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. If we really care about someone, we want them to be as close to a healthy weight as possible. There is absolutely no question, but the number on the scale is only one indicator of wellness. No matter what your weight is, you can improve your health by being physically active, eating a healthy diet, and not smoking, Willett says. Okay. So, what I will say here is this is a half answer. And what I will say is that when it comes to something like BED, this can be a very, very helpful concept if taken in the right direction. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll say, okay, no matter what my weight is, that means I never have to lose it. That's where you lose me. That's where it's like, nope, wrong, totally off, period. The weight itself is a risk factor. The weight itself is unhealthy. The weight itself is hormonally active. The weight itself causes problems. So that's where you lose me. But yes, being physically active, eating a healthy diet, and not smoking are great things for anybody to do. Absolutely. Actively trying to control weight may be an effective tactic for some people, but for others it can be downright destructive. It doesn't have to be. So this is also a weird thing in BED logic. I love that we can keep like bringing this in. So one of the major BED logics is that you can never get over your BED. Once you have it, it will be there for all eternity. Once you have it, it can never be cured. You can never get out of it. You can never be in remission. This is false. False. 100% false. It's a coping mechanism. If you find another way to cope, then it goes away. That's all. It's quite simple to describe, but it's very hard to do in practice. And that's really the struggle. Always think of it as carving a new path in your mind. So you have to take a machete and go out into the woods and cut down the branches and get a new path. That's what it feels like when you're trying to find a different coping mechanism instead of BED. But once you've cleared the path, then it's there. So like for me, I've already cleared the path. So if I have emotional issues, I've found ways to cope with it. I cope with it in a lot of different ways, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's knitting, whether it's keeping busy, whether it's whatever. Now, what you need to make sure you do is do not find a very unhealthy coping mechanism to replace it with. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole other issue. But you have to deal with things. You have to not run from emotions, and you have to not run from things all the time, because that's where it comes from. And I think a lot of times people feel like if they deal with their emotions, it's just an endless pit of death, but it really isn't. It passes relatively quickly. And if you deal with it and get the information, it can be really helpful. So yeah, you will not always have your BED. If you fight it, you can kill it. It can die. So remember that. A 2005 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition noted that about 20% of overweight people are successful at long-term weight loss. Oh, that's a much higher number. That's interesting. Very interesting. 2005. I guess it changed since 1959. But what about all the people who try but fail to lose weight at all or put it right back on? It's called BEG. It's called being lazy, just reverting back to your issues. And in some cases, it can be pretty much exclusively tied to hormonal issues. But you're like not doing anything about them, and you're just like, your appetite's higher and you're just eating. Basically, that's a problem. So that can also occur. It can be hormonal as well. But once again, there are things to do about it. And if we were talking about medication yesterday, if you have a medication that makes you prone to gaining weight, then maybe you're going to have to track. Maybe you're going to have to count calories if you're on that medication, because it's not going to be just something that you intuitively keep off anymore. Maybe you're going to have to be careful about what you eat, because I don't think just diving into the appetite increasing effects of a medication is intelligent. I'm sorry. So yeah, those are reasons why. Many in that group, and possibly some successful weight losers too, wind up perpetually struggling, constantly anxious about food, and dissatisfied with their bodies. Many people don't, though. So again, this is BEG coded. So again, I'm gonna keep bringing it back to you guys, okay? That's really the focus this year on the channel. So if it's irritating you, I'm sorry, but that's where we're going this year. And this is that. This is a BEG logic. So what is the logic here? The holy tenet of BEG states that weight loss will always be very difficult and that you'll always be anxious and dissatisfied with your body. That's a BEG logic. It's not necessarily true. You don't have to go down that path. Once again, I was talking to my mom today. She's been working on counting calories, and she was like, I feel like I'm tracking again. She's like, I'm feeling kind of anxious. She's like, I feel like I'm on Weight Watchers. I'm like, you're not on Weight Watchers. I was like, don't worry about losing weight right now. Just get in the habit of tracking and de-emotionalize it. Like, just count the calories and don't feel anything about it. It's just a fact. It's just math. Don't be passionate about it. Because I think if you can count the calories, even at maintenance, or even just counting what you're eating, period. If you can do that and get to a place where you get over the trigger, you get over the emotional trigger of counting, then you will get there. Because then all it takes is slow adjustments down until you're losing. And then it's actually kind of easy. But for somebody with BEG, the important thing is the anxiety aspect. And it's really important to temper this. So you count as a form of exposure therapy. So it's like anxiety will go away if you expose yourself to something. So if you start counting and you're not even losing weight, I told her, I said, just divorce it from losing weight in your mind. Just think about you're just counting in terms of seeing the amount of food that you're eating, and that's it. And there's no judgment on it. There's no emotion behind it. It is just what it is. That's a really good starting point because we're not on The Biggest Loser, So that's what I was trying to explain to my mom today. And that was very helpful to me, is being as dispassionate about tracking food as possible, because it's not emotional and it shouldn't be emotional. It's fine. It's just boring. It's actually boring. Think of it as boring. It is a boring activity. It's very boring. It should be boring. Okay. Some develop EDs. I would say that they already have it if they're already doing all this. We're already there. Okay. Many heal and become the anti-diet voices on my Instagram feed. Tied into the personal struggle is the pressure from our profoundly weight-based society, where size discrimination is the norm. So this is where I always have issues with fat activists, because they always take a psychological issue that, remember, is trauma-induced. People don't talk about that, but it is something trauma-induced. But they take a psychological issue that is trauma-induced and they turn it into a political thing, which is not smart at all. It's very stupid and very confusing, and it makes it almost impossible to solve the issue. I can assure you that I did not solve my BEG by politicizing it. No. Doesn't work. It's no wonder so many people are pushing back and essentially flipping the bird at our diet and weight-obsessed culture. But although that stance may be necessary, is it? It's kind of weird. I think that a lot of fat acceptance creates this, because it creates a perception that that weight gain comes from magic fairy dust in the air. And that's not the truth. So I think if we got rid of fat acceptance, this would actually go away, because people would know exactly why they're gaining weight and they would know exactly what to do about it. That's why I talk about it a lot on this channel, because it's really important. Because if people in society could understand on a grand scale that essentially weight is connected to caloric intake, period, end of sentence, then they would know that they wouldn't gain weight unless if they were consistently overeating for weeks and months and years. Just the same way that in order to lose weight, you have to be in a deficit for weeks and months and years. We've lost that because we've been told that weight is genetic, weight just happens, weight gain is inevitable. These are all fat acceptance things that have been pushed into popular culture, particularly by things like Washington Post, which I'm pointing out right now. So that's why people are weight obsessed, because they feel like it's all a game of whack-a-mole and you never know who's going to be fat next. And they're making something that's very actually extremely predictable and making it seem unpredictable. And it makes people have a lot of anxiety about it. But you shouldn't have anxiety about it. Okay. But although that stance may be necessary, like I said, I don't think it is. I think it's making it worse. A downside is that for some, it has meant the rejection of any conversation about health, weight-related or not. Okay, let's see where they're going to go with this. It's almost like there's a wall where you can't talk about healthy eating at all in fat positivity communities. It's not almost like that. That's what it is, which is why you shouldn't be a part of this, because it isn't positive to be fat. So the whole idea of it is a gaslight, and it's just not it, period. I've always told you guys, I'm going to keep saying that probably this year too. Being obese is not it. I don't really know how to explain it, but somebody was asking, they're like, what do you mean by that? And I'm just like, it just isn't it. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but I'm going to keep saying it. I would say on an emotional level, it is not it. It's just not a thing. I don't know. It just isn't. So to be positive about something that is not it is not a good thing. It's not cool to be fat. It's not fun to be fat. It's not trendy to be fat. It's not beautiful to be fat. None of these things are true. It is not it. And if you're telling yourself all those things, it's not healthy to be fat, it ain't it. So if you're telling yourself these things, you're gaslighting yourself. And if somebody else is telling you these things, they're gaslighting you. Or they're flat out lying, which is horrible. I'm not going to lie to you. So I'm going to just say it is not it. Period. It can change. Period. It should change. Period. I don't do fat acceptance here. We don't entertain that. Now, when I say being fat isn't beautiful, does that mean it's ugly? I didn't say that. But it's not beautiful either. It's just not it. There shouldn't be, people are projecting and putting things into being fat that it isn't. I don't know how else to explain it. It's very hard to explain. But I'm not getting on here and saying, oh, if you're fat, then you're ugly, or you should feel horrible about yourself. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the fatness has nothing to do with anything, because it isn't it, other than unhealthy. If you're giving it any other quality, you're putting something into it that doesn't belong there. It's just not it. Okay, I hope I was clear. I'm trying. It is late. I don't know what is with me doing these videos super late, but whatever. I'm going to continue now. I'm going to move on. Okay. Let's see. Jessamine Stanley, author of Everybody Yoga, told me, it's like you are creating an unsafe environment by talking about healthy eating. She sees a solution to breaking down these walls in acceptance and self-care. When you love yourself, you want to fuel yourself well. You want to take care. You want to take that care for you. Yes, and you want to be of a normal weight. You want to be at a healthy level of weight as well. That's a part of it. To actually care about yourself is to want to be at a normal weight, whether it's too high or too low. And it can be too low. I'm not, one of those girly pops on this channel where I'm just like thinner the better. I don't believe in that either. So no, you want to be at a healthy level. So no. Anyways, Rebecca, blah, 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 says, if we broaden the view of health beyond weight or appearance, we will all be free to pursue health in our own individual way. We're already free to pursue health in our individual way, so that doesn't make sense. Weight, you can't. You cannot. Weight is a part of health. Appearance, it's subjective. It really depends. There's a majority opinion, but I don't really comment on that. And I don't think that that's that important, to be honest. I do think it should be kind of X'd out of the conversation, especially when you're like super morbidly obese or very big, or you have BED and you're really struggling with it. I just think it's better to just not think about. Just like let that go for a while. Let other people have an opinion on your appearance. You can give yourself a break. You've thought about it enough. Okay? But as far as the health side, no. Health and weight are tied together. Period. So that is a lie. This is a gaslight. Okay. And once again, we are already able to pursue health in our own individual way. So this might actually be... no. Okay. I'm going to continue. I was like, that might be BEG logic, but I don't think it is. The closest it could be is the idea that... no, it doesn't apply. Yeah, there is no logic there. Okay, sorry. I'm like processing as I'm going. You guys are probably like, what the hell? Whatever. Okay, I thought that was part of the article. That's a different article. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. Okay, get it together. It's late. I'm in my summertime sadness. I'm hypolicious. I'm struggling right now. I'm a little bit attention deficit at the moment. With that in mind, abandoning weight loss as a goal, taking it off the table completely, and refocusing on personally meaningful healthy behaviors seems like our best shot at true wellness. This can be a really important first step. Okay, so what I would say to amend this is say, don't think about losing weight right now. That's an important amendment. So for somebody with BED, one of the most healing beliefs is that you can separate health behaviors from weight progress. But overall, the weight does matter. But to tell somebody with BED that it's going to be a slow process, don't worry about it. Take your time with it. As long as you're progressing down there, or as long as you're getting to a place where you're ready to lose. That's all. Get your body healthy enough to lose. That was one of the best ideas and best mindsets I ever had in regard to BED. So this is too far, and it's too black and white. So this is wrong. But there is truth in it. And that's what makes this so sad, because I know that there was somebody with BED reading this article and they listened to this. And they're probably even fatter now than they were back then. And that's very sad. That's horrible and cruel, which is why this article is very cruel. And again, I will hold these people accountable and say that writing these kinds of things is very cruel and evil and not empathetic at all. It's horrible. And I will continue to say that. So this article is horrible to be written this way, because you should be aware of what you're telling somebody that is struggling. That's evil. Evil, 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 evil. I would never say this. And refocusing on personally meaningful healthy behaviors seems like our best shot at true wellness. Weight is a part of true wellness. Blah, blah. Sandra says that a lot of the health problems we associate with obesity are actually a consequence of not getting enough exercise. True to a certain extent, but notice it's obesity, not super morbid obesity. So once again, there are levels to this that are being ignored. And I understand the majority in America are more so towards the obese category, maybe a little higher, a little lower. So for a lot of people, that's true. But for people that are super morbidly obese or morbidly obese, that is not true. The obesity itself is causing a problem. Do I have to go through all my problems caused by obesity once again? My hypothyroidism is made worse. It's even materialized. I have hypoventilation, obesity-related hypoventilation. I think those are probably the main things right now. Those are like the biggest focuses I have right now in terms of my health. But there's a lot of other stuff that's tied directly to weight. For example, wear and tear on joints. If you have sleep apnea, it can be made much worse by being obese. It's a lot of breathing issues in obesity, and depression and anxiety is caused by obesity. So again, there's a lot of stuff that is caused directly by obesity. And you could say, okay, well, they're depressed because they're not exercising. Sure, but, what would you guys think if I told you that for much of my experience with going to the gym and exercising, I feel more depressed after going because I burn fat and it causes me to feel even more depressed. So it's the obesity. So I don't know why this article is trying so hard to defend obesity, but again, that's evil to do. It's crazy that as a society, we have chosen to focus on weight loss rather than improving fitness and nutrition. It's crazy that as a society, we've acted like weight and fitness and nutrition can be somehow separated. They're not. It's not a separate thing. Fitness and weight are completely linked. Nutrition is definitely thrown in there because if you don't have nutrition, you're going to be way too hungry to lose weight, period. It's all there. Anyways, which are easier and more important? No. Health at every size does not exist. It's false. I would say it's equally important. Equal, not more important to just do the fitness and nutrition. It's equally important to do fitness, nutrition, and get your weight in a healthy range. Why are they separating it? Doesn't make sense. Fitness and weight are totally linked. Doesn't make sense. She suggests making concrete, positive fitness goals. Sit down and make a list of the things you'd like to be able to do that you can't do now. Whether it is to walk a few blocks without running out of breath, give a kid a piggyback ride, or run a 5K. Have something you are pulling toward. I don't think that would have helped me at all. For a lot of people that are in a very bad situation, a lot of these goals are very, very, very far away. So I think for me, what helped was just focusing on health in general and just being like, I want to be healthier. I want to get out of this pit of despair and this pit of horrible health that I'm in. I want to fight this and get out, and I want to live. And that helped me. The desire to live is what got me through. So sometimes I think when you're in that very, very hypothyroid, very super morbidly obese mindset, you can't always think about details in that way. And I don't think people understand that because a lot of times when you're in that physical state, every day is survival. So you want to think about it in terms of like a big picture goal. And so for me, it was the big picture goal of health. Like I want to get to a point where health is not the biggest concern in my life. That was my goal. That was what I had in my mind. And I got there. I did. So now if I wanted to sit down and make a list of goals, I probably could because my mind is healthier and more clear. So I could do something like that. But when you're really, really sick, I would say think about big picture goals and an overall direction, because it's going to take a long time. It's a slow thing. And you have to think about it in terms of like just working towards a higher goal or a higher purpose. And that can be something that is helpful, is to think of it as a purpose, as pursuing your health is a life purpose at the time. That can be very helpful. It was hard for me once that shifted, and I was like, whoa, that's not my only purpose anymore. I have other things to think about. That was a tough transition for sure. It felt like losing a job or something. It was weird. But at the end of the day, it still got me through, So always be willing to change strategies throughout a journey as well. That's very important. But anyways, I'm just trying to give that perspective as somebody who's very, very ill. I would just think about it very big picture, and that would probably help more. And you say it over and over, kind of like a mantra, because you kind of just have to think that way when you're going through it, because it's very hard. I don't think people, because we have this fat acceptance ideology in America, people don't consider how sick somebody is when they're really big. So it's just horrible. It's just horrible. Okay. Anyways, Stanley suggests doing some research online or asking friends to find a fitness community that welcomes people of all sizes, so you're walking into a positive, non-judgmental environment. I think it's good to have a positive, non-judgmental environment. I will agree with them there. Very, very good, because you're already going to feel judged a lot of the time. You're just going to feel judged anyways, so it shouldn't be real. You don't want to be in a situation where it's actually judgmental, because you might perceive it that way anyways. But if somebody's like telling you look disgusting or something while you're working out, that would be horrible. So I agree. That I agree with. The fitness industry has profited for a long time on people believing they are not satisfactory. She says, you are already awesome when you walk into the space. The reason to go should be to have fun. I would just say you're going to the gym or whatever because you're just trying to work on yourself. That's it. And people need to just view it that way. And I think for the most part, it is viewed that way. I think you just would experience some judgment at like a super bougie gym or something. But in general, I think people understand that people are there to just improve. And they're just working on their body, or they're working on themselves for the most part. And that's, I think, a good mindset to go into it with. It's not about like you're not good enough, or you're not this, or you're not that. It's just you're working towards a purpose, or you're working towards something. It's a different mindset. So you're not just like going because you hate yourself. You're going because it's a good thing to do. It's a positive thing to do. It's a higher purpose. It's like one of those kinds of things. So you go because you want to improve yourself. Why do you want to improve yourself? Same reason you would want to improve yourself for any other reason and in any other way, because you're working towards a higher goal than what you're currently working towards. And that's a good thing. And that's all. So don't hate yourself or judge yourself for anything when you're going to work out or when you're going to the gym or something. Just think of it as like, I'm working on myself, and I'm working towards a higher goal. I'm trying to get to a better place than where I was before. And wherever that is for you, I never have any judgment. I don't think anybody should. Unless if you're doing something dangerous, like glitter and lasers, then I think you should have some judgment, because you don't want to get injured. And I'm always concerned about safety. I'm always concerned about injury. So don't push too hard, but push a little, So anyways, that was kind of a long speech. For her, it was yoga that got her to pay attention to how food affects her body. She was more comfortable doing inversions and felt more energized after yoga when she ate well. It is that kind of internal personal motivation that can really stick, as opposed to being motivated or tortured by the number on the scale. I think that both of these things are very subjective. So it's kind of like feeling energized. You're not always going to feel energized. So that's kind of subjective to me. And then being motivated or tortured by the scale, that's also subjective because your weight will go up and down. It fluctuates, especially from a very big size. When you're super morbidly obese, your weight will fluctuate, especially as a woman. When you're having your cycle, your weight will fluctuate regardless of anything. So, and that's in general as a woman. But even as a man, your weight will fluctuate quite a bit if you are super morbidly obese or even morbidly obese, or probably even just in general. It's just probably not as big of a swing, but your weight fluctuates throughout a weight loss journey, especially from higher levels of obesity. So that's also very subjective. So again, I would think of it more in terms of purpose or in terms of like a higher goal, striving towards something. That's all. It's having a higher goal. So that way, like if certain details don't line up, like let's say you don't feel energized after exercising, or you don't have a lesser number on the scale, you still have the higher goal of continuing to work on yourself that isn't dependent on any of these details. Okay? It's just like, I'm just working towards being better. And that's it. You don't have to think about like a number on the scale or this or that. You can, but I don't think it should be the only motivation you have, because you want to put your motivation into like a higher goal or a principle or something that's kind of bigger than yourself, basically. That's my opinion, because you're not always going to have instant results and you're not always going to feel it. So it has to be more than feelings. Okay. People make all these behavioral changes, then quit because they didn't lose weight. Yeah, and that's very negative, and I agree with that. So that is negative. In some cases, though, if the weight is continually not coming off, then you may need to make some changes to get to a place where it will come off. So that it depends. So certain things you might have to shift, especially if you have hormonal issues, or if you're coming from a very, very high level of weight. Something that worked at one point in the journey won't work in another part of the journey, and you have to be able to be flexible. So that's a thing. Anyways, when you define health in terms of weight, it's a part of it. You can't separate weight from health. But anyways, oops, I messed up my article. I got too sassy. I ain't giving you money. Okay. Instead, Scritchfield suggests, make changes that matter to you for reasons that go beyond weight, such as better digestion, more energy, better sleeping patterns, or having a better attitude towards food. Okay. Like I said, these are too, in my opinion, they're too detailed. It's like too detailed, too small picture, in my opinion, to help somebody truly unhealthy, very, very sick. These are kind of like, like it wouldn't have helped me to think about it in this way. I just thought about it as big picture. It's like I don't want my body to feel like a prison anymore. That was like a big goal, right? It's like a very big picture thing. Or I want to be just like, I think my main goal was like, I don't want my health to always be in my way. Especially when it comes to something like weight, where it's in your control. So that was that was my big goal. But it could be something, a lot of you guys in my audience are religious. It could be a religious motivation that will work. It could be just a principle of health, or a principle of pursuing self-improvement, even if you're not religious, something like that. But think of it as a higher purpose or a goal, a higher goal. It's a higher goal than getting through the workday so that you can watch Netflix when you're at home. It's not to say that those are bad goals. They're just not higher goals. So just think of it that way and it'll be fine. Think big picture. That's what I'm trying to say. Big picture. Okay. The key factor is to make choices that fit you best, that make you feel good, and trust that you will be at a weight that is healthy for you. you don't need a scale for that. Okay, so that's just totally wrong. Sometimes you're going to have to measure. You may have to count calories to actually get the weight under control. And I don't think it's, you don't personally, if for whatever reason the scale is like a huge thing, I think you should work on that. But if you're like really bad in throes of your ED, then somebody should be, keeping track. If that's your doctor, that's fine. But somebody should be keeping track of it. And again, I do think I'm not a person that believes your ED is with you for all eternity. I don't believe that. So I would encourage you to work past that at some point. Maybe not this year, maybe not today, but at some point. Because you got to that's not getting rid of it. That's like you're orienting your life around it still. And that's not personally how I dealt with it. So I don't agree with that. But you do you. I mean, as long as you're healthy, I'm not going to complain or anything. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, this part that make you feel good, you are not always going to feel good. That's not going to happen. So, like if I were to listen to this, then I would just probably stop being in a deficit right now because I don't feel good. But the thing is, you don't feel good being fat either. So it's a catch-22. So you're not always going to feel good. So, like I said, this can't be feeling based. It can't. You're not going to get there. Okay. But yeah, I hope that helped you guys. Let me know what you think. I'd love your thoughts as always. And I will talk to you guys later. This is definitely a summertime sadness era video. So I was very depressed tonight. Bing! We love. But I'm going to continue to lose weight. So sorry you didn't convince me, Ellie. You didn't convince me. I'll see you guys later. Bye.